Welcome everyone to another video of Vinyl Addict. This is Chili and today is video number 2 of my Mofi series, and it's on Michael Jackson's Thriller, the One Step. Now before I get into this, please don't forget to hit the like button, comment on this video, share this video, and if you still haven't, please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell for updates. Okay, so with that out of the way, when I started my vinyl journey, or collecting records and everything, of course, and I'm pretty much speaking out to people who are starting this journey as well. You're going to come across all these different kinds of records where you're going to just figure out, like, well, what's this all about, and why are many people getting these records, and whether it's Japanese imports or unofficials, bootlegs they want to call imports, and colored vinyl, original pressings, all those things, music on vinyl, vinyl me please, and then you got mobile fidelity, and so I was introduced to this like 4 years ago. It's like 2023, yeah. And I was, pretty much told, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it, And of course, unfortunately, I loved it. And so there's a cost to this kind of production and sound quality for albums that, have really kind of, for me, is sentimental. And those are the ones that I, get first. That is the first reason I will get an album on here. It has nothing to do with, I know that there's some audiophile people where, they read up on certain things and they want to get certain albums that, I guess you could say, for the music snobs, or, or for lack of a better term, music intelligentsias, the elite. They pretty much will just look at jazz musicians and this and that, and kind of there was an argument out there that this has no musical merit, and why is Mobile Fidelity releasing Michael Jackson for the 40th anniversary? Okay, I will get to that. So they could throw on their Bill Evans albums and their Miles Davis albums all day and kind of just look at this as nothing. Now, I'm not here to debate any of those kinds of things. I do feel this album has a lot of musical merit. It is a game changer, of course, and Michael Jackson is from the old school. He's from I guess when this was being made, he's from the old guard. He grew up and was making albums in the 70s, late 60s, 70s, where they had musicians that were, in-house musicians, or, hired guns that are just, top of the line. I mean, working with the Funk Brothers, who was, I did a video recently on the Jackson 5, popular band, underrated album for the Get It Together. They had the Funk Brothers in there, and just like all these kind of musicians, like Brian Wilson used in Pet Sounds, and so he is from that guard, and this is the pinnacle of that kind of album, where you have like all these people behind him at his disposal that he could use, whether it's Jeff Porcaro, Steve Lukather from Toto, Lewis Johnson on bass, Nadugu, the drummer for Billie Jean. He's worked with George Duke, Herbie Hancock, Miles Davis, and of course you got Edward Van Halen on here, and Paul McCartney, and throw in a little Vincent Price too, why not? Quincy Jones producing it. So for music snobs to say, well, this is just dance pop music and it has no musical merit to it, and I guess they're getting kind of confused with all the mania that came with this album, and being a top seller. It's sold millions. It's 100 million to date. From when it was released. So 40,000 copies is pretty much a limited edition for this album. Is pretty accurate, I would say. 40,000 people are going to be privileged, and I feel privileged to hear this album this way. And I will get to that, how it sounds and everything, but just kind of stating that this is from the old guard of industry standard ways of making albums, and Michael Jackson, of course, is a great artist, and I'm glad that Mobile Fidelity gave the pass for this and honored the 40th anniversary of this album. So everyone now who are naysayers about the musical merit of this album could just go, okay, yeah, it is worthy of going through this process. So that being said, let's go through this album. Want to be starting something from right when I put it on, and listening to that, I was just, of course, I was blown away. For one thing, there's a lot of songs I'm blown away more than others, and because listening to the this version, all these years I couldn't unhear it this way. It's sort of embedded in my head, but now listening to it this way with the soundstage so wide open, and hearing all the clarity of all these things that they were always there, but it just seemed like it was, I wouldn't say cluttered, but it was just like kind of just locked in one section where it's like fly and be free, like Mork would say with the egg, back in that's an old Mork and Mindy reference. Probably don't get it, but fly and be free. So just opening up the floodgates here and just hearing this album, and the background vocals, before it just seemed, that there's some background vocals, you could hear it, your mind tells you there's background vocals, but it's gibberish. Now it's sort of like you hear it, or I heard it, and and that is truly amazing. And you could hear Michael Jackson's voice, for what he's right in the middle, and you could just hear him isolated, and you don't really have to concentrate on it and hear how he really sounds, which is really cool. And especially in songs like Baby Be Mine, and all the little keyboard synthesizer kind of 80s treatments don't sound like 80s treatments anymore, because pretty much those little effects with the keyboards and the synthesizers, the little bells and whistles that would probably used to be up in the front, it's sort of just like now well balanced in the back, and so it sounds, because of the quality of the instruments, it doesn't sound like an 80s album. It sounds very classic. It just sounds like a classic song, and all of these songs do. And The Girl Is Mine, which wasn't one of my favorite songs when it first came out because it was the lead-in single. It's just like, okay, well, yeah, this is the guy who did Rock With You and Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, and this is what he's coming out with. It didn't really, I didn't care much for it. Hearing it here, because it was always a song that, when you're playing this album, and if you just kind of, we always let the album play anyway back in the day, right? And that's why we love vinyls, because we drop the needle and we listen to it. We don't just skip songs. And so, I mean, it would still be playing in the background regardless, because then Thriller would be the next song anyway. So, however, listening to it now, it doesn't sound annoying, because I guess I'm listening to it with a different agenda, and just I dropped all this money on it. I want to hear something good, or I want to, hear something, that will just kind of raise my eyebrows. And it has, it's a good production, a good songwriting craft of Jeff Beccaro arranging it, and Steve Lukather arranging it, and the vocals are very warm, and it's just it wasn't how it used to make me feel. I'll just leave it at that. Thriller, that was just mind bending. It's an experience in itself, and that's what I feel. What these releases are, these MoFi releases, they're a listening experience, of an old friend that you love, and Thriller. How could it get any more greater? The all the ghouly sounds in the background, the keyboards, the layering of that, and that theremin in the back, and it's just yeah, the layering of the keyboards. That's another thing I was kind of blown away with this album, especially on Human Nature. Human Nature was everything was just like, it seems like it was so three-dimensional, and that one really blew me away. Uh, Beat It blew me away as well, and especially just hearing Steve Lukather's guitar on it too, more evident, and everything is just you're encapsulated by this whole thing, this Michael Jackson world. It's quite a feat. And Billie Jean, because there was all this talk about it not being as bombastic as the original. I listen to it in a different way. I wonder, because this is not meant to be listened to on a dance floor, or you know what I mean. It's not the way, even if it doesn't bring that oomph to it with the bass and the drums, because it's this song and PYT are pretty much evident with that. But no, because now they're kind of all the songs are kind of uniformly kind of mastered in this manner. It's meant to be where one song is not more emphasized on this. It seems more as a collective, so it does not differentiate between tracks. Because if you listen to these songs, if you look at the song roster here, they seem like songs that wouldn't normally come together in an album. They always seem like, yeah, it was like, if you really looked at Human Nature, that song on the same album with Wanna Be Starting Something and Wanna Be Starting Something to beat it with the song Thriller to, what I mean? But now, because everything is sort of brought in and mastered kind of the same way, it is a group of songs, a collection of songs that do work together and not individually. It's no longer like, yeah, I like that song Billie Jean if you're like into just dance music and you don't care for Beat It or something like that. Now it's you're listening to it in a sense where like these songs all do sound like they should be together. It's interesting, and because in Michael Jackson's mind it does, and for some odd reason, maybe when choosing the songs that were going to be on this album, there was originally 30 of them, and these are the ones that made it. Probably those were all kind of like, what would be seemed out in left field, but to Michael Jackson, no, this all makes sense to me. It's all relevant to him. And when people were buying this album back in the day, maybe some of them liked it for this song and not for this song. But then when you're listening to it as a collective, as a whole, and it's done properly, or I wouldn't say properly, but the experience of the way it's mastered on this, it all comes together and makes sense. I don't know if that means anything, you know, because that's how it's what I got out of this, and it is a great listen. It's a great experience. I'm privileged to be one of the 40,000 people that got to hear it in this way, and I can't unhear it this way. And I will continue to hear it this way because this is the way that I enjoyed it the most, and I do not regret forking over $100 for this. And if you love this album, or even if you are kind of want to understand, especially if you're new to vinyl and you're going and you're seeing this on albums at the record store, I would, because this is a very popular album, you know, I'm not just gonna go, oh, go get a King Crimson album, you know, because just so you could really hear, you know, how great this format is. This is something that everyone knows, right? And so it's like I said, it's a familiar friend, and so it's safe for me to say I would suggest if you see this to get it, because then you will then understand what all this is all about. And so leave me a comment below. What are your thoughts on Michael Jackson's One Step? Did you feel it was not an album to be celebrated or honored? I do. I feel it was, and I think it's well deserved. And leave me a comment below. And with that, I'll shut up and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.